Hello, everyone. Welcome to Heavy Rotations. My name is Tom Jennings. I'm here with my son, Trevor. And this is a show that we've created for, to kind of relive that time when people were sharing albums, talking about it, and, when music was a communal experience, so to speak. And last week, I'm totally lost what we did for last Duke Jupiter. So last week I gave you an album, and then this week Trevor's on the clock. Yeah. My son Trevor, in case we didn't say, we were talking about this thing like we should really let people know that we are father and son. I mean, we don't look like brothers, do we? I mean, I do look young for my age.
I mean, times are weird. You never know.
yeah, that's right. Anyhow, so this week Trevor gave me an album. So with that being said, he's going to tell us a little bit about the album, and then I'll give him my impression. And this one I think it's kind of an interesting choice because I know we had sort of talked about sharing albums that the other person hadn't heard before. We'll get into it later, but I actually heard all the songs on this album, but I'd never heard the album before. So we'll explain that later. So we'll start out with the easy question is, so when did you purchase this album and why?
So I picked this up probably about 2 or 3 years ago, just because this was one of those records that I really needed to add to my collection. The reason why I needed to add to my collection is because of a show that we went to a long time ago, probably, probably like 10 years ago.
That might even be more. I think I looked it up online because I did an interview for Backstage Access, so I think it was 2010. Yeah. So you would have been, I think 16 or 17. We saw him at a bar too. How did I get you into a bar when you were that young?
Well, you used to get me into all the shows. You finagled your way in there. And you were interviewing Dickie Barrett and everything, and I remember this show because...
Well, you remember incorrectly. I was not interviewing Dickie Barrett.
Oh, that's true.
I was interviewing Tim Burton.
Yes,
Johnny Vegas is his nickname.
That's true. So. All right, yeah, we're getting ahead of ourselves here. But so, we went to go see Mighty Bosstones. I had just gone into... first, I was introduced to punk by my brother, and then ska kind of came after that. And this was kind of the first record that kind of combines those two things, and kind of the first band that combined those two things. This is the first record by Mighty Bosstones called Devil's Night Out. Fantastic record. But so I happened to go and want to see them. You were covering the show, and I was very excited. Streetlight Manifesto was opening. That was actually my introduction and my love for Streetlight. I got a hat now, so it kind of sparked a whole thing. Just one of the best shows I've ever been to. Streetlight opened up and just got the crowd moving the entire time, followed by Mighty Bosstones, who were, when they came out, they had played a few songs, and they said that they were going to play this album in its entirety for Buffalo because they love Buffalo. Now, do I know if that's 100% true? I felt like it was. At the very least, it felt genuine. I don't know for sure, but
we do know it was the first time that they ever did that because
true, yeah.
The guy was actually, what was really funny is I asked him when we were doing the interview, and I read back in the interview, not to say it was a great interview, but it was a great interview. I would think I was better at interviews back then than I am now. So I'd done a lot of research, and at the time, a lot of bands were doing these full album shows. And I said, hey, have you guys ever considered doing a full album show? And he has this look on his face, and he's like, well, actually, we're doing one tonight. For the first time, we're playing an album beginning to end, and it's our first album. Yeah. So, and then he's like, you can't tell anybody. But I mean,
which I knew going in, which was cool. I had this little information while I'm seeing Street. I was like, man, Boston's are gonna play their first album. It's gonna be crazy.
I don't think we did tell anybody, did we? I mean, we didn't really know anybody there, but it was pretty cool.
I was just there with you, so.
That was funny.
But yeah, I bought this album because it holds a special place in my heart, and I gave it to you just to kind of see if it would spark some memories of that. Now, again, this is like that first record that kind of combined punk and ska. And when it opens up, it gives you that crazy, just what? Is this a ska record? Because you think of the Mighty Bosstones from that song. There's the
impression that I get
that everybody knows. Yes. And they're like, oh, they're that classic ska band. You listen to this, you're like, wow, these guys are hardcore. His voice is so intense and gravelly. Wow, this is a very different record. And I will never forget. Every time I put this on, I hear songs like "Hope I Never Lose Your Wallet" and "Bartender's Song," and I just hear everybody singing along with me. So it has a very special place in my heart. Whether, that makes it a better record than what it is to me versus other people. You know, there's something to be said about that in its own. But so I gave it to you because I was kind of curious what you would think of it, because you happened to see the whole record played out without actually being a Mighty Bosstones fan. You were just covering the show and took me, because you basically took me to every show that I wanted to go to when I was younger.
No, it's like, we'll go on a quick bunny trail. When Trevor was really young, I took him to see Nazareth, and Nazareth had this song called "Hair of the Dog," and the big line in that is, "Now you're messing with the son of a bitch." So on the way home from the venue, I think he was, it was 2000, so you would have been 6 years old. Yeah. So he's 6 years old in the back of the car singing, "Now you're messing with the son of a bitch." But yeah.
Then so I couldn't say bitch, I just had to say son of a.
Well,
you're messing with the son of a.
Yeah, your mother yelled at you, and I'm just like, this is cool as hell, man. My kid's singing Nazareth, I
remember being on your shoulders, everyone around me is just like, what the hell?
So yeah, we've always had kind of a love of live music, and it's funny because we've hit all these questions too, just in our conversation about whether we've seen this band live or what genre it is. But I said, you gave me the album, and I immediately thought back to that day. I was like, dang man, I forgot I saw this album from beginning to end. And that moment again when he told us, he's like, "Oh yeah, we're playing this all beginning to end tonight." And I felt like it was a little bit of insider information. Mm-hmm. But the other part of it, the great memory of that night as well, was Dickie Barrett just wanted walking by, and he was kind of like one of those, "Hey kid, you want a picture?"
Yeah, I gave him that look.
yeah. I know Trevor's all like, "Oh my God, Dickie Barrett's here!" You got all fanboy, dude.
I did. I didn't say a word to him.
No, you just like Trevor's jaw just dropped. He's like, "Oh my God, it's Dickie Barrett!" He looked like one of those young girls that saw the Beatles. But it's a great story. It was fantastic. So, and we've talked so much about this record, haven't we? But anyhow, I think that's the great thing about music, is it stokes so many memories in people, and I think people remember. A great album is not just about the music; it's about the memories that it evokes. You hear people that use the term "the soundtrack of your life." And this is the soundtrack of your youth, and it's the soundtrack of a really special evening that you and I shared together. Yeah. And it's interesting. This was the first time I've ever listened to it in the context of listening to it as an album, other than, I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. So with that being said, the first thing that kind of surprised me was how guitar heavy it was.
Yeah. Well, it starts out just so, like, heavy. Like, it gets you from the beginning. And then, like, the ska comes in. You're just like, what is this? Like, it's this perfect balance of, like, ska and, like, almost like a hardcore punk. And then his voice just, like, carries it. You're just like, oh, my God.
It's a unique approach because it's very hodgepodge, Yeah. Like, one minute it's like this hard rock album, super heavy guitar based. And then next minute you got a bunch of horns.
Yeah, and you want to dance.
And it's ska. Like it goes from Def Leppard to No Doubt in one song. So that was the part that kind of surprised me. I was like, wow, man. It's weird because when I listened to it, I thought to myself, this absolutely makes no sense and should not work at all. Like it shouldn't. It just shouldn't. Yeah. Because the styles are so dramatically in contrast with each other, And again, like 1 minute you're listening to this one sound, and literally the next minute it's like, wow, now they're back into the ska. Yeah. And you talk about the one the big ones I love. Hope I Never Lose My Wallet.
Yeah, I just remember the crowd going, "Hope I never lose my wallet." And when I saw the show, I wasn't even like, I had gotten into this album called Jackknife for a Swan, and then I forget the name of the album that has impression that I get, but I've been listening to those, and I, as a fan, I usually, go into a band's discography, and I was familiar with it, and I heard it, and then but I didn't know all the songs, even like that a lot of the crowd did, but like the crowd was just like so excited they were playing this album, and then, it made me fall in love with this album. And, every time I put it on, just like I hear the crowd singing along, and like I remember coming off the energy of Streetlight to like back to the energy of Mighty Bosstones, and just being like one of those like highly memorable shows. And just like this is like one of those, like, as a record collector, this just like needed to be something that I owned. Like the second I picked it out, I was like, I need to have this. Maybe it's not the one that I listened to the most, but it's the one with like the most fondest memories.
Yeah, and and it's interesting too. You mentioned about how like the fans were so in tune to it, and I think that's sort of another piece of the Bosstones that's worth thinking about. Is that there's certain bands that really have fan bases that are just so like dialed in to their music, and you can go to a show.
It's infectious.
It is like, so maybe like for me, I really went in. I mean, I knew that one song, The Impression That I Get, and all that stuff because it was on the radio. And I knew Dickie Barrett was part of Jimmy Kimmel and all that, but I didn't have a ton of background on the band. But man, it was like, you're right, as soon as they got to like starting to play that and they mentioned they were going to play it, the crowd just went berserk. Mm-hmm. And at this point in their career too, they were not doing the Bosstones full time, which I don't think they do anymore. So they only do, a handful of dates a year, 30 or 40 dates.
Right.
So, I mean, if you're a fan of a group like the Bosstones, you're probably traveling to shows and, you're catching the few opportunities that you have. Mm-hmm. And it was cool that the guy said just backstage, hey, man, let's gift to our fans because we know our fans come and follow us to different shows. But
yeah, they had said, they love Buffalo and we're doing this for Buffalo.
Yeah,
it's like this is a special moment.
Well, Boston, Buffalo. I mean, this you figure a band like the Bosstones being from Boston, back in the day, you would build your fan base in areas that it was 1 or 2 day drive. Like if
New
you
England
do just do a quick tour of the region and whatnot. Maybe drive from Chicago to New York City and then pick up some shows in between. But yeah, it was a good time. But it's funny because Hope I Lose My Wallet. Hope I Don't Never Lose My Wallet. One of the reasons that I love that song is, and you hear artists talk about when it comes to songwriting, one of the huge elements that makes a great song is something that everybody can relate to. And I mean, guys, man, like one of the most terrifying things that you could ever have happen to you is to lose your wallet.
Yeah.
And as much as it's just like this kind of high energy song and, it's fun and all that other stuff, it's like, man, I mean, it's like one of the suckiest things to ever happen. You got your driver's license, you got family pictures, you got, concert stubs, you got, I mean, who knows? I mean, hopefully you don't have any condoms in there, right? But you know what I'm saying. But so that theme in and of itself, it kind of is good for a party atmosphere, but it's also something that, you can relate to because, that's why so many rock songs or whatever are love songs because most people can relate to the feeling of being in love, breaking up, and I mean, Alanis Morissette tapped into the anger every woman had on the guy that cheated her and whatnot, and Motley Crue tapped into every guy's dream of having 27 women in the shower with you. So all those things are kind of like hit your senses, but nobody thinks about those little things where everybody experiences and everybody has a little bit of anxiety about. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and make it kind of into a fun thing.
Make it into a fun thing. So, yeah, I really enjoyed this album. As I said, I'd seen it before, but some of the songs kind of brought me back to that night, but I didn't, we're talking 10, 11 years now. It's not like there was one from that particular night that stood out where I say, oh, yeah, I definitely remember hearing that one. But
well, going back to it, like, what did you think? What was your favorite song, and then how did you feel about the sequencing overall?
Yeah, the second to last one there, Do Something Crazy.
Oh, that's a good song.
Oh, my God. That's just like, second to last song on the album I thought was great. Hope I Never Lose My Wallet. Again, I think it's weird. I was thinking about the sequencing on this that, like, it was just, everything was so just nonsensical. It was so hodgepodge together.
It's like a roller coaster.
Right,
like,
but that's like what makes it work. Like, as strange as that sounds, some albums really need some very solid structure for them to make sense and to flow properly and all that kind of stuff. And I don't doubt for a moment that there was a great deal of thought that went into choosing the song order. But I think with music like this, it doesn't necessarily matter as much because it's just, it's party music, it's fun.
Yeah.
If there was a testament to the fact that the running order works, they played it live in concert from beginning to end. I mean, let's face it, you can't perform an album successfully in concert unless the order of the album makes sense. Otherwise the live presentation is going to suffer and bands aren't going to want to do it. So,
and the album itself as a whole, kind of as a one big cohesive thing, kind of speaks for itself.
Yeah.
So where the track sequencing, it comes across as less important, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. But and the album itself is important. I mean, you said it's iconic. I mean, it's a it's an important album as part of the genre where they really kind of melded a couple of different sounds together and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and,
the ska and the punk smashed together.
And I did get to interview Dickie Barrett many years later. I think that was maybe 2 or 3 years ago. And I don't know, man, he turned out to be just the nicest guy. Like, I think that's always what's so weird is that he's got this really gravelly voice and this sort of really gruff kind of persona. But as a guy to talk to, man, he was just like, he was so nice. Like, he was just a sweet guy. You know, you hate to use that term like it sounds all sappy and everything.
Well, I learned about the dancing guy from you, or from that interview,
yeah.
I believe. It's like, I never knew why, and then you were the one to tell me.
Well, the background is, and I'll let Trevor tell the rest of the story, but if you go to a Mighty Bosstones show, and you can look it up online because there's plenty of stuff on YouTube, there's a guy who literally does nothing but stands on stage and dances. And it's just, I don't know. And he told me about it before we went to the show. He's like, there's just a guy on stage that does nothing but dance. No background vocals, no nothing. And we asked Tim Burton, you know, no relation to the movie director. And then, do you remember the story he said?
Yeah, so he was the dance guy was basically their manager. And they couldn't get him into the club. Like, I don't know if it was just one occasion or several occasions. They were like, well, he's part of the band. And the guy was like, well, you know, what does he do? And he's like, well, I can't sing, I can't play. Yeah. Like, well, I'll just get up there and dance. And then he just kind of started doing that so they can get into all these shows.
Well, actually, do you remember why they had to lie to get him into
it? I should just let you play the show, or the story anyway.
He was underage, remember?
Well, yeah, I forgot to include that part.
Because that's the important part.
That is the key part of the whole story.
Because he was hanging out with the band, and he was underage. And they're like, oh, man. They're like, well, this guy can't be with you. Yeah. And they're like, oh, is he part of the band? Because if you were underage, you could go in the club. So that's why he wound up going on stage. Because I think he became the manager later, right?
I don't know. You're the one who really knows the story. I learned it from you, so whatever. It's the telephone game at this point.
The telephone game. I'm just trying to put you on the spot and make me look smarter than my son, because that's what we do as fathers, right?
It's messed up.
You know. All right. Well, listen. Great episode. I really enjoyed this conversation a lot. I think we.
Last question is, would you own it?
Oh yeah, no doubt, dude. I dug this album a lot, man.
Sweet.
It was just a lot of fun. If I see it, you know, I've already picked up one of the albums that we've shared in my travels at a record store in the area. I believe it was Revolver Records, maybe? I don't know. We're looking for sponsors. But, yeah, I would definitely pick it up. I mean, it's a lot of fun. And I've got some Mighty Bosstones on CD that I'll listen to on occasion. But this one I don't own. I don't know. I said it was just a great trip down memory lane. I really enjoyed it. This was a great choice. Same. This is of all the ones that we've shared so far. This has by far been my favorite experience with an album.
That's why I didn't even tell you at first. I just kind of slipped it in there, and I was like, "Oh, let's see if you kind of draw the parallels, or put the pieces together."
Absolutely. But, all right. Well, hey, that wraps up another episode. Just keep liking, sharing. If you want a record store, sponsor us. I mean, I don't know. And
give us records.
Give us records. Yeah. Oh, we do. I do. It's probably coming up in the next couple of weeks. I did have somebody, promotional guy, mail me a record. So we actually have our first record that was sent to us. So you could be the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 7th, whatever. We'll
18th.
Talk about it. We'll say nice things about it. We don't say mean things about albums. No. Well, maybe, we say sarcastic things, but never anything really mean.
Unless you're a Beatles cover band.
Unless you're a Beatles cover band. We won't get into that. All right.
Have an attitude.
That's an inside joke. We'll probably get to that in a future episode. But anyhow, thanks from Tom, my son Trevor. We do really appreciate this. We hope you're enjoying these as much as we're enjoying making them.